get questions at the beach all the time. Eric, how do you get rigged so fast? How do you get in the water so fast? Well, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you exactly what I do, and maybe it'll help you out. Maybe it won't. So if you don't like it, skip this video. But if you do, hang in there. All right, so first and foremost, as with pretty much everything that I do, you need to have an approach and have a plan. My wife tells me, oh, I bet you probably have a plan to take a shower. Well, actually, if there's a demand, I'll do a shower video later on. But for now, we're talking about rigging faster. So, approach, have a plan. Everything I do has a plan. So when you have an approach and a plan, you can take it step by step. Too often, I'll see people, they'll pull up in their car, they'll walk down to the water, see what the wind looks like, they'll come back to their car, they'll take out a board, take the board down to the water, they'll come back to their car, they'll rig a sail, take the sail down to the water, they'll come back to their car, they'll put their wetsuit on and get dressed. By the time they put their wetsuit on and get dressed, the wind has changed, so now they go back and get the sail that they first rigged, bring that back, de-rig that, rig a new sail, take it down, and they finally get to sail. Well, we're going to tell you a faster way to do that here. We're going to talk about that right now. So I'm going to use 3 steps to explain this. The first is take your board down to the water. The second is come back to the car, get dressed, wetsuit, helmet, harness, whatever. Third step, rig the sail. In that order. Board to the water, get dressed, rig the sail. I'll explain the details of why we do it in that order as we move on.
Notice is that it is systematic, not necessarily neat, but systematic. Got the masts on the bottom here. I made the shelf a little bit higher just last week so that we could accommodate some extra masts. Got sails, got booms. Inside the van, I have the boards that I use most frequently, and on the top of the van, I have the boards that I use less frequently. Here we've got extensions and accessories, little toolkit right here. So everything's nice and organized, nice and systematic. Not necessarily neat, but systematic. Now, if we grab the stool and we need to get the boards off the roof, it's an easy job. Put the stool together up to the top. And I like to use these straps that have a little hook, because with the little hook, you can just lift it off. It's got elastic in it, so it makes it real easy to get your boards on and off, saves a little time. So as I mentioned, the first thing I'm going to do is take my board to the water. I know what size board I'm going to use based on the wind meter, so I don't need to walk to the water to look at the wind. I can just look at the meter. That's enough for me to decide what board I'm going to use. And then while I'm down there with the board at the water's edge, then I can decide what sail size I'm going to use. And you'll notice that I have a base plate on the board. That saves me a couple of seconds. I don't have to twist the base on. And you'll also notice that the fin is on the board, and I leave the fin on the board all the time. It saves me a couple seconds putting that on, taking it off. Unless I decide I'm going to use a different fin, then obviously I'd have to spend a few seconds to change that. So now I've taken the board down to the water. While I was there, I checked the wind to decide what sail I'm going to rig. I walk back to the car and I get dressed. And I'm going to put on everything, including the harness, the vest, the helmet. Everything's going to go on, and I'm going to lock the car before I actually rig the sail. Anything I'm going to wear under my wetsuit, any base layers, I put those on at home before I get to the water. They're very comfortable for driving and such, and that saves me time when I get to the water. So now that I'm dressed, I'm going to grab these 4 items, the sail, the mast, the extension, and the boom. I'm going to lock the vehicle, and I'm going to rig either near the van, or I'm going to go down to the water's edge and rig there. Lock your vehicle, get everything done. Rigging the sail is the very, very last thing. Check the meters before you rig the sail. Look at the water from the car, check it once more, make sure you know what sail you're going to rig, and then rig it. Now I use Essie sails for most of my sails, and one thing I like about them is when I thread the mast, top half of the mast, into the sail, there's this piece of fabric here, and it holds the sleeve open so that the mast can slide in, so I don't have to make an extra trip up the sail to insert the top half of the mast into the upper part of the sleeve. So I thread the pulley, and then I'm going to use my spreader bar to download. I'm not going to use a separate downhaul tool, because then I got to go back to the car, put it back in the car, and then come back to the sail, trying to reduce the number of trips back and forth to the vehicle and back and forth to the water. This is how it saves time, and this is why I can rig so quickly and get in the water so quickly. The knot I use is very simple. It's called loop it, fold it, weave it. You loop the rope, fold the rope, you weave spreader bar, and you downhaul. And then when you're done, it comes right out. There's no knot to undo. Very simple, very quick. You don't need the extra tool, and you can get right in the water. Now, the boom that you use should actually match the extension that you use. So notice here that the extension is pointing to the left. You'll see that my sail, the clew, is pointing to the left. So I'm better off to have a boom where the clamp, if you can see the tongue part of the clamp, comes under the mast. So you'll see here with this Chinook boom, the tongue of the clamp comes under the mast, where with this Goya boom, the tongue of the clamp will go over the mast. And it makes it much more difficult to put the boom on if the tongue of the clamp is going to go over the mast. So the Chinook in this case would be a much better choice. However, I could use the Goya and flip the sail over so that the clew is pointing to the right, and then I would be able to flip the boom over to make it easier to put the tongue of the clamp under the mast. But that's going to take time. That's going to take an extra step. So if you're looking to get in the water as quickly as possible, make sure that your boom is matched to your extension, and it'll save you a little time. Now on all my sails, I use the correct mast size so I do not have to extend the mast through the head of the sail. If you have to extend it through the head of the sail, especially on these Ezzies, you have to lengthen the webbing, which means that you now have to come up to the head of the sail to insert the mast into the head cap. And that takes extra time, and I'm not about to use that extra time. Also, when you use the correct mast, you also give your sail the proper flex. So make sure you have the correct mast and try not to extend it through the head cap. So there you have it, folks. 2 trips to the water. Didn't have to run back and forth to the car. Quick, easy, simple, getting in the water fast. Hey, if you like this video, please click the subscribe button down below if you haven't already done so. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time. On the water.